The father and the stranger. The cold wind blew through the small human colony on the edge of the alien world. It was a quiet evening, the kind where lights from distant stars seemed to whisper forgotten stories. Inside a small wooden house, a single father named Evan sat beside the fire with his young daughter Lyra. She laughed softly as she showed him the little wooden bird she carved. "Look, Papa, it can almost fly," she said with bright eyes. Evan smiled, his rough hands resting on his knees. "Almost, sweetheart," he replied gently. His eyes, though calm, carried the weight of loneliness. He had lost his wife 3 years ago, and since then, his world had turned cold, but tonight, something strange was about to happen. A sharp knock broke the silence. Lyra ran to the door before her father could stop her. The wind rushed in, carrying snow and a stranger. She was sitting on a hovering chair. Her face pale from the cold, her eyes, though tired, held a soft glow. Evan froze. He had seen her once before, near the colony square, and the woman who couldn't walk, the one people whispered about. "Please," she said quietly. "My name is Arya. I have nowhere else to go." Evan helped her inside. Lyra brought a blanket and placed it around her shoulders. The warmth of the fire reached her slowly, but she still trembled. Evan looked at her carefully. "You shouldn't be out alone this late. The storm could have taken you." Arya's eyes filled with sadness. "No one wanted to help," she whispered. "They think I'm cursed because my legs don't work." Lyra frowned. "That's silly. Papa says everyone deserves kindness." Evan looked at his daughter. Proud of her innocent words, he gave Arya a small nod. "You can stay for the night." For a moment, silence returned. The fire crackled and the storm raged outside. Arya looked around, noticing the little carvings. The books, the warmth. It had been years since she had felt safe anywhere. "Your home? It feels alive," she said softly. Evan gave a small smile. "It's Lyra. She brings life to it." As the night went on, Arya shared her story. She was once a scientist on this planet, working on human-alien rehabilitation programs. An accident destroyed her lab and her legs. Since then, people had treated her as broken, someone unfit for love, family, or even respect. Evan listened in silence, but his eyes told a story too, of pain, of loss, and of a heart that still cared. When Lyra finally fell asleep, Arya whispered, "You didn't have to help me, most people wouldn't." Evan stared into the fire. "Most people forget what it means to be human," he said quietly. "We're not strong because we walk, we're strong because we keep standing inside." Arya blinked, her chest tightening. Those words hit her harder than any storm ever could. Outside, the storm began to fade, the world grew silent again. Arya looked at Lyra sleeping peacefully by the fire and felt something she hadn't in years. Hope. For the first time, she thought maybe she wasn't broken. Maybe she had just been waiting for the right hearts to find her. The gift of morning light the next morning. Sunlight crept through the frosted window, spreading gold across the small wooden floor. Arya opened her eyes slowly, for a moment forgetting where she was. Then the smell of warm bread and the sound of laughter brought her back. Lyra was sitting at the table, giggling as Evan tried to flip a pancake with an old metal spatula. It slipped and fell to the floor, both of them laughing like it was the funniest thing in the world. Arya couldn't help but smile. She hadn't smiled like that in years, not since before the accident. When Evan noticed her awake, he said, "Good morning. You must be hungry." Arya nodded shyly. "It smells wonderful." He placed a plate in front of her and said, "It's not perfect, but it's food." She laughed softly. Perfect doesn't matter, warmth does. For the first time, she felt what home might feel like again. Lyra sat beside her and began talking endlessly, about her school, her drawings, her favorite stars. Arya listened to every word like it was music. When breakfast ended, Evan helped her move her hover chair near the window. Outside, snow glistened like crushed diamonds. Arya stared quietly. "I used to love mornings," she said, "but after the accident, every sunrise felt like a reminder that I couldn't stand anymore." Evan's voice was gentle. "Sometimes the light only shows us what we can still do, not what we've lost." His words stayed with her deeper than he knew that afternoon. Arya watched as Evan repaired a broken water pump outside. His movements were strong, patient, precise. Lyra ran around him, handing him tools with excitement. They looked like a real family, something Arya never thought she would see again. But peace never lasted long in this colony. Just as the sun began to set, a group of strangers arrived at the edge of the settlement. Their hovercraft bore the emblem of the High Council, a mix of human and alien law enforcers who ruled the colonies. They were here for her. Arya froze, her hands gripping the sides of her chair. Evan noticed immediately and walked to her. "What's wrong?" They'll take me back," she whispered. "I wasn't supposed to leave the city. My condition makes me a liability under the Council's care system." Evan frowned. "You're not a liability, you're a person." Before she could answer, the door burst open. A tall alien officer stepped inside, his cold blue eyes scanning the room. "Citizen Arya Loon," he said. "You have been reported missing. You are to return immediately to the rehabilitation facility." Arya's voice trembled. "Please, I just wanted to live freely for one night." Evan stood between them. "She's not going anywhere." The alien's eyes narrowed. "You would defy the Council?" Evan didn't flinch. "If being human means protecting someone who's been forgotten, then yes." The silence that followed was heavy. The officer stared at him for a long time before turning away. "You've made a mistake, human," he said coldly. "The Council does not forgive disobedience." When they left, Arya's heart raced. She looked at Evan with tears in her eyes. "You shouldn't have done that." He knelt beside her. "Maybe not, but I couldn't let them take your hope away." She looked at him, really looked, and saw something rare, something strong. For the first time since her accident, she didn't feel like a burden. She felt like she belonged somewhere outside. The wind carried the sound of the departing hovercraft, but inside that small house something new had begun. Shadows of the Council. The wind outside grew colder that night, and the silence in Evan's home carried an unease that none of them could shake. Arya sat near the fire, staring at the faint reflection of the flames dancing across the metal frame of her hover chair. Lyra slept soundly on the couch, her small hand clutching a wooden toy. Evan moved quietly, checking the door locks. His jaw was tight, his eyes restless. He knew the Council wouldn't simply walk away. They never did. "You shouldn't have stood up to them," Arya said softly, her voice trembling not from fear, but from guilt. "They'll come back, and when they do, they'll hurt you." Evan turned toward her, his expression calm but firm. "Let them try," he said. "I've lost too much to live by fear." Arya shook her head. "You don't understand how powerful they are. I worked for them once. I saw what happens to those who disobey." Evan pulled a blanket tighter around Lyra and sat across from Arya. "Then tell me," he said. "Tell me what they want so we can stop hiding." Arya hesitated. Her hands trembled slightly. "The Council claims to protect the colonies," she said, "but they use people like me for their research. My condition, my paralysis, it wasn't just an accident. The lab explosion was staged. They were testing new biocontrol implants meant to manipulate nervous systems. I refused to be part of it." Evan's eyes darkened. "They tried to control you." "Yes," she whispered, "and when I resisted, they made sure I could never walk again." For a long moment, there was only the sound of the fire. Evan's fists clenched slowly. "No one should have that kind of power," he said. Arya met his eyes, seeing anger, but also compassion. "You're risking everything for a stranger," she said quietly. He shook his head. "You stopped being a stranger the moment you knocked on my door." Outside, a faint hum broke the stillness. Arya froze. "That sound. It's them." Evan went to the window far across the snowfield. Faint blue lights flickered, approaching fast. "They've found us," he muttered. "We have to move." Arya's voice wavered. "I can't slow you down. Take Lyra and go. Please." Evan looked at her as if she had said something foolish. "You think I'd leave you behind?" he said. "We're in this together now." He lifted her hover chair with one strong motion. Lyra stirred awake, confused and frightened. "Papa, what's happening?" "Just a little trip, sweetheart," he said, forcing a smile. "Hold tight to your toy." They slipped out through the back. Moving through the blinding snow, the cold bit through their clothes, and every sound seemed sharper. Behind them, the hum of Council drones grew louder. Their lights swept across the ground like predators hunting prey. Arya's chair beeped faintly. "They're tracking my chair's signal," she whispered. "If we destroy it, they might lose us." Evan stopped, pulled a knife from his belt, and with a single motion, cut through the energy core. The chair went silent. He carried her now, one arm under her knees, the other across her back. She wanted to protest, but words failed her. Through the snowstorm, Evan moved like a shadow, determined, unstoppable. When they finally reached the edge of the forest, He laid her down gently and looked back. "We'll rest here," he said, breathing heavily. Arya stared at him through tears. "Why are you doing this for me?" He smiled faintly. "Because someone once did the same for me." Under the pale light of 2 moons, she realized that maybe fate hadn't been cruel after all. Maybe it had simply been waiting for this human, this man, who refused to let her be forgotten, the secret within her. The forest was silent except for the soft crackle of a tiny fire. Snow still drifted down through the trees. Glowing under the pale moons, Evan sat nearby, his arms wrapped around Lyra to keep her warm. Arya lay close, her hover chair destroyed. Her body weak, yet her eyes stayed open, watching the shadows beyond the trees. She had never felt so alive. And so afraid, Evan looked at her quietly. "They'll search every valley by morning," he said. "We need to move before sunrise." Arya nodded, though her body trembled. "There's an old shelter beyond the ridge," she whispered. "One of the old research outposts, I remember the way." Lyra tugged on her father's sleeve.
"Papa, why are they chasing Miss Arya?"
"She didn't do anything wrong." Evan brushed her hair softly. "Because some people fear what they don't understand," he said. "But that doesn't mean we stop doing what's right." Arya closed her eyes. Those words felt heavier than he knew. As dawn began to rise, faint orange light spread across the snow. They started moving again. Evan carried Arya on his back, his breath turning to mist in the cold. She felt the steady beat of his heart against her. Strong and human, it reminded her what real courage sounded like. By midday, they reached the ridge. Below it lay a ruined complex half buried in ice, the remains of Research Station Helion. Arya's old workplace. Evan lowered her to the ground. "This is where it happened?" She nodded slowly. "Yes, this is where my life ended." "And where theirs began," Evan frowned. "What do you mean?" Arya looked at her trembling hands. "Before the explosion, I injected myself with a prototype serum. It was supposed to help damaged nerves heal using nanites, living machines. The Council wanted to weaponize them, control them. But I only wanted to walk again." Evan's eyes widened. "And it worked?" "Partly," she said. "The nanites didn't heal me completely, but they kept me alive, and I can feel them changing." Before Evan could reply, a faint hum echoed from the distance. "Council drones searching inside," he whispered, pulling Lyra and Arya toward the broken entrance. The air inside was stale. Metallic. Arya looked around, memories flooding back. "There should be a control core in the lower level," she said. "If I can reach it, I can activate a signal scrambler. It'll block their scanners." Evan helped her down a frozen corridor. Every step creaked under their boots, dust floated like tiny ghosts. Finally, they reached the control room. Broken screens glowing faint blue. Arya placed her trembling hand on the console. "It's still running," she whispered. "But I'll need a direct connection." She opened a small panel at the base of her spine. Metal glinting faintly, Evan stared in shock. "You have an interface port," she nodded. "The nanites built it over time. They respond to my thoughts." She connected to the console, her eyes glowing faintly silver. Lights flickered all around. Lyra gasped softly. "Papa, she looks like magic." Evan smiled faintly. "Maybe she is." Then the wall shook. The sound of engines filled the air. The Council had found them. Arya's voice was strained. "Almost there. I just need a few more seconds." Evan stood by the doorway, rifle in hand. "You'll have it," he said firmly. The console flared to life, sending a wave of static through the comms network. The scanners above the forest went dark. Arya fell back, exhausted but smiling. "They can't track us now," she whispered. Evan caught her before she hit the floor. "You did it," he said softly. Her eyes opened weakly, glowing faintly with silver veins. "Evan, something's happening to me." He looked at her with both fear and awe. "Then whatever it is, we'll face it together." Outside, the drones hovered aimlessly, blinded and confused. Inside, humanity's flame burned quietly in the dark. The human firewall snowstorm wind screamed above the ruined station while silence filled the halls below. Evan sat near the dim blue console, checking his rifle again and again. Lyra slept wrapped in a blanket, her small face peaceful despite the danger around. Across the room, Arya lay on a makeshift bed. Her skin still carried a faint silver glow. The nanites inside her were changing fast. Sometimes tiny sparks danced along her fingertips. Evan leaned close. "How do you feel?" Arya smiled weakly. "Like lightning is breathing under my skin." He frowned. Is it dangerous? I don't know, she whispered. But the council won't stop until they control it. They believe I'm the key to making humans. Obey. Evan looked away, anger tightening his jaw. They'll find nothing but fire waiting for them. Hours passed, a distant rumble grew louder. Then a harsh voice crackled through the station speakers. Human Evan Ridge. Surrender, Arya Loon, and your child will not be harmed. Lyra stirred, frightened. Papa, they found us. Evan held her close. Don't be afraid, sweetheart. We protect our family. No matter what. Arya tried to sit up. Evan, you can't fight them all. The nanites inside me. They can link with the base systems. I might be able to create a defense grid. He helped her reach the console. Do it, I'll hold them off. She plugged the cable into the port at her spine. Her eyes flickered bright silver. Lights across the room came alive. Screens filled with symbols and patterns. I'm inside the system, she said, voice distant. They're trying to override the locks. I can feel them. Outside, the sound of hovercrafts thundered closer. The ground shook. Evan took position at the entrance. Laser rifle ready. The door trembled as explosions echoed through the frozen forest. Arya's voice turned sharp. They've sent drones. 20 of them. He smiled grimly. Then let's show them what humans do when cornered. He fired. The first drone exploded in a flash of red light. Another burst open against the wall, but there were too many. Arya screamed. I can stop them if I use the nanites fully. Evan turned back. What does that mean? They'll merge with the station's power core. I might not survive it. He shook his head. No. We'll find another way. Her eyes softened. You gave me my first home in years, Evan. Let me give you a chance to keep it. Before he could stop her, she pressed both hands to the glowing console. Silver veins crawled up her arms, spreading light through the room outside. The attacking drones froze midair, sparks bursting from their cores. The council's comms filled with static. What is she? A voice screamed before cutting out. Energy pulsed from the station like a wave, knocking the hovercrafts from the sky. The blizzard itself seemed to twist with light. Evan shielded Lyra as the blast rolled over them. When it ended, silence returned. Arya lay still, her glow fading. Evan ran to her. Arya, stay with me. Her eyes opened slightly. I'm here, she whispered. The council. Their network is gone. I broke their control. He held her hand tightly. You did more than that. You showed them what being human means. Tears glistened in her eyes. Then maybe I'm one of you after all. Evan smiled faintly. You always were. Outside, the snow began to fall again. Gentle and quiet. The storm had passed. But a new dawn was coming. One built on courage, sacrifice, and something stronger than any technology. The human heart. The dawn after the storm, the world was quiet. Only the soft hum of dying machines and falling snow filled the air. Evan held Arya close, her breathing faint. The glow from her skin slowly fading into the pale light of morning. Lyra stood beside them, eyes wide and filled with tears. Papa, is Miss Arya going to be okay? Evan brushed a strand of hair from Arya's face. She's strong, sweetheart, stronger than anyone I've ever met. Arya smiled weakly. I'm still here, she whispered. I can feel the nanites. They're quiet now, like they've finally found peace. Outside the ruins, the wreckage of council ships smoked in silence. No signals, no orders, no more control. Humanity was free again, at least for now. Evan carried Arya outside, the cold air biting against his skin. But the sun was rising through the clouds, a bright golden beam breaking through the frozen storm. It felt like hope. Look, Lyra said softly, pointing upward. The sky's waking up. Arya's eyes filled with light as she watched it. I used to think I'd never see beauty again, she whispered. But I was wrong. They set up a small fire outside the broken lab, sharing warmth under the open sky. For the first time in years, Arya didn't feel like a burden or a project. She felt human, truly human. Evan sat beside her, silent for a while, then said, You changed everything. Arya, not just for me and Lyra, but for all of us. She turned to him, her voice soft. No, Evan, you did. You taught me what it means to fight for someone. Not because of rules or duty, but because it's right. He smiled gently. Then maybe we both saved each other, Lyra giggled, holding their hands together. Does that mean we're family now? Evan looked at Arya, her silver eyes meeting his. Yes, he said finally. We are, but peace never came easy from the distance. A faint blue light blinked in the snow. A surviving drone. Damaged but active. Its lens focused on them before collapsing completely. Arya frowned. They'll come again, Evan nodded. Then we'll be ready next time. She looked at him with quiet determination. The nanites inside me, they're changing still. I think I can control them now. Use them to heal others. Maybe even rebuild what they destroyed. Evan's eyes softened. Then we start again here with you. Over the next few days, they rebuilt the small outpost into a home. Lyra painted stars on the walls. Evan crafted furniture from broken panels. And Arya, now stronger each morning, began using her gift to restore life to the frozen land. Plants began to grow through the cracks of the ice. Faint blue flowers that glowed in the dark. The world around them was slowly waking again. One evening, as the sun sank low, painting the snow golden red, Evan walked beside Arya outside. Her legs were still weak, but she stood, truly stood, leaning slightly against him. Lyra cheered from the doorway. You're walking. Arya laughed softly, tears in her eyes. Maybe not perfectly, but it's enough. Evan held her hand tighter. That's all that ever mattered. They stood there together, three small figures against a wide, endless world. The storm clouds were gone. The council was broken, and somewhere in the stars, stories of a human who defied them all began to spread. And though the galaxy might never know their names, one truth echoed beyond worlds, that humanity's greatest power was never in strength or weapons. It was in love, in hope, and in the will to stand even when broken.